welcome everybody who's watching the recording of this. And I'll just get into sharing mode. Being a sharing, caring person that I am, hopefully you can see that in a minute. Brett, have you got the screen up there? Is it working for you? No?
Screen at the moment, it's coming on.
Coming slowly, is it? Well, while it's coming on, just to welcome everyone who's watching the recording and everyone who's live. We're about to start the Movie Making Basics with Premiere Pro Part 2. And for those people who were part of Part 1, then you would have noticed that we started. There we go, we can see it now. It's good. A little technical things, so that's where we should be good to go now. So this is Part 2 of the Premiere Pro sort of movie making basic session. During Part 1, we still there, Brett? I just lost connection on my iPad here. Just making sure that we're
we're still there. We've got it all.
Good. Yeah, I just lost my monitor. All right. During Part 1, we spent a fair bit of time looking at file management, which is a really crucial part of video production. And we didn't really get into the actual editing process. So the aim of this session is to really work pretty quickly and go through the editing process and get through all those tips and tricks on how to do an effective video production with Premiere Pro. So just before we do get started, my usual promos, the Adobe Campus Leader program. We now have about 40 who are part of the Adobe Campus Leader program here in Australia, which is great, and it's growing. So if you know someone who you think would make a good Adobe Campus Leader, someone who's quite passionate about using Adobe products at their school, then please encourage them to go into that URL and apply to become an Adobe Campus Leader. And the only one I want to really promote today from the collaborative courses that we've got running is the video course, which kind of relates to what we're doing today in a big way. And this course is starting on the 16th of November, so enrollments are open now, and it'll be finishing through halfway through January. So during that course, it's going to be a fantastic, intensive session on video production with some experts from around the world helping us out. We'll be able to connect with digital professional video experts and lots of good educators to help with video production. So encourage people who you know are interested in video production to be part of that course. So the aim of this session is really to look at Part 2. We've done all of Part 1. If you missed Part 1, you can always go back and have a look at the recording of Part 1 just to go through the whole setting up a project, file management and all of that. We're going to go into how to do basic editing, how to change the speed of footage, how to add transitions, titles, adjust your audio. Hopefully we'll get some time to do some chroma keying and also how to export. But if we don't get time to finish it, and if you want to sort of look back at things bit by bit, there's already a series of videos that I've produced on all of those steps that are available on the Adobe Education Exchange through those URLs there. Or just do a search on the Adobe Education Exchange for Premiere Pro, and there's lots of resources there for you. Alright, let's get stuck into it. So what I'm going to do is go and open up Premiere Pro, and you'll see as it opens up the splash screen, I've got a pretty powerful computer, so it's relatively quicker than some computers that are do this fairly slowly. Now, first thing you do is I'm going to create a brand new project, create new, just like a lot of Adobe products, and giving it a title. I'm going to call this one Prem2, that'll do. And as I said last time, to find the project folder. So I've just got a project folder set up here. Prem Pro sample, there's my footage, there's all the files that I'll be using. I'll just mention those in a minute. And that's all we need to worry about with this particular window. Don't worry about all the other things that are there. Click OK, it'll open up Premiere Pro, the environment we're working with. So now we're going to import all the assets that I've already been developing. And it's quite simple. The most intuitive way to do it is to find all those assets. And I did encourage you in the last session to have all your audio files in an audio folder, or your video files in a footage folder, or your stills in a stills folder. And what I'm going to do now is just grab those three folders, and I'm going to drag them, literally just drag them into this part of Premiere Pro down the bottom left-hand corner where it says import, and then they become bins. I'll just get rid of that window so we can see that we've now got my audio file sitting in that bin, we've got my footage sitting in that bin, and we've got a still image sitting in that bin. And Now if we double click some of the footage, we can see what I've got to work with. If I hit the play button, you should be able to hear or see. And action.
Hi, I'm Sam, and I'm Ma, and we...
And I know that Sam and Emma didn't do a great job of that first attempt, so we're just going to scrub through until we've got it again. Now I'm listening for the word action. As soon as I hear the word action, I'm going to hit the I on the keyboard to set up an in point.
Hi, I'm Sam, and I'm Emma, and we're from Eleanor Heights Public School. Today we visited Adobe headquarters in Sydney.
And once I'm happy with that little edit is finished, I'm going to click the O on the keyboard. So I've got the I and the O representing an in point and an out point. An alternative to hitting the keys on the keyboard, the I and the O, is to use these little symbols here, mark in, mark out. So once you've got your in point and your out point, I'm going to click, hold and drag down to this bottom right hand corner of the screen, and instantly my timeline becomes visible. Now it's a little bit hard to see probably, but if you look closely where my mouse is hovering and turning around, we've got two layers here that I'm working with, a video layer V1 and an audio layer A1. If I make the video a little bit bigger by going down to the bottom and just dragging across a little bit down here, we can see I've just magnified the size of it. I haven't changed the edit, I've just made it bigger by using a magnifying glass. Alternatively, I could have used that little zoom tool there and clicked in, and that would have done the same thing. So now I'm going to go to this side and preview my edit by hitting the play button.
Hi, I'm Sam, and I'm Emma, and we're from Eleanor Heights Public School. Today we visited Adobe headquarters in Sydney.
I'm going to stop it there because I'm pretty happy with that edit. So what I'm going to do now is go and find some images of the kids arriving to the Adobe office. And I've got some footage here as the door is about to open. So I'm scrubbing through to find an appropriate in point. Just as the door is about to open, I'm going to click the I for in, and I'm going to hit the space bar to see how it goes. Door's opening, kids are coming in.
Look around, guys. Look around, look
Got
around.
my voice if you don't want. And I'm going to stop there. Just going to use my arrows to trim back a little bit, and then click the O. So I've got my in point and my out point. I'm going to click and drag that onto the timeline. Notice how the video and the audio come with me, and it's going to snap into position directly next to that first edit. So if I take the playhead back a little bit, we'll see the end of the first edit and the beginning of the second edit. If I hit the space bar now.
Headquarters in Sydney.
So we've got our first two edits basically done. Now, a couple of things. I don't want my audio in here when I'm talking.
Look around, guys.
I don't want any of that. So there's a few things I could do. So the easiest way to do this is I'm going to actually get rid of it. I'm going to select it and delete all of it. Go back to my in point and out point, and this little button just here, it says drag video only. If I hover my cursor directly over that little symbol just there, I can click, hold and drag, and it just drags the video. That's such a cool time saver. Otherwise, alternatively, what I could have done if I just undo and bring back the audio as well, is I could actually go and lock the video. So I'm locking it, and then click on highlight the audio and hit the delete button, and that'll do the same effect. There's more than one way to skin a cat. There's lots of different alternatives on how you can do different things with all the Adobe software, really. So I've got my first edit. So the other thing I want to do here is I actually want to add some music at this point, because I've got the open
At Public School. Today we visited Adobe headquarters in Sydney.
So I'm going to trim that a little bit because I wasn't happy with the output there, and you can do that in the timeline. There we go, and bring that back in. So I want the music to start at this point. So I'm going to go to my audio file and double click my audio file, and there's my music. And I'm just going to play it now. So I know it's going to come to the start. So I'm pretty happy. Then I'll bring the whole track in because I'm going to base this movie around the soundtrack. And I'm going to grab the soundtrack, just I'm going to grab that little symbol that represents the soundtrack there, and come and bring it into audio level 2. So now what we is the introduction, and then suddenly as the kids are walking in, the music will start at the same time. Hopefully that'll happen.
Today we visited Adobe headquarters in Sydney.
Okay, it's pretty good. The other thing I want to do here quickly is I actually want to speed up these images of the kids coming in. I want them to come in a lot quicker. So I'm going to do a right click on that bit of footage. I'm going to go to where it says speed duration and then click on that button. And the speed is currently 100%, so I'm going to change that to 300%. And then click OK. And now we should get an effect of the kids coming in.
Quarters in Sydney.
Now, I'm from a music background and I love editing video to the music. So I'm literally going to be listening to how the beat of the song goes, and I'm going to find where a good time to put the next edit will be.
Sydney.
So about there as we go into the next bar of the song. So that'll be my next edit, which I'm just looking now for some images of the kids looking around. I think actually towards the end of this bit of footage here, we'll actually looking around. There we go, that's not a bad little thing. I've got input. Maybe not to start because we can't move too quickly. Probably from there. That'll do, just a few seconds of it. Dragging the video only into the video layer 1, so now we've got this effect. And let's just put some more footage of the kids pushing around the windows. That'll do, input. That'll do, and I'm just going to drag that video, and try that again, drag that video, and the music's at an appropriate point now to go to the next edit. So the next edit is actually going to be the kids talking again, if I can find their next little bit of speech. Let's see what we've got here.
One of the great things we did is we filmed against the green screen.
Okay, so I've got an in point and an out point. I'm going to drag that into the next layer, and this time I do want to keep the audio, so talk is important. Now you may have realised now that I'm going to have an issue with the music and her audio, so we need to be able to control that. What we can do now with Premiere Pro CC is if we just open this up a little bit more, if you've still got CS6, you've got a little arrow that you can click to get the same effect. Now I can control the volume using this line here across the audio. I'm going to grab the pen tool at this point. I'm going to click a little button there and a little button there and just drag the audio of the soundtrack down a little bit. Isn't that working? There we go. And if I just hit the playhead back a bit.
One of the great things we did is
you'll notice that the music's gone down a little bit, but her voice is actually quite loud too. So I'm just going to open up. So a few little issues there. Just opening up the volume of her audio. And trying to get the volume down a little bit. But for some reason, I'm just having a few little issues as to why it's not moving. It should be moving. There you go. Starting to move. So maybe that should be enough.
one of the great things we did is we filmed against the green screen.
Alright, so she's talking about the green screen, so I'm going to quickly find some footage of the kids working on the green screen. So there's some sample there.
We have really enjoyed our time here today.
And I'll just grab that bit and just grab the video of that, not the audio. And now we should have
the green screen.
And to make that more effective, I'm going to bring up the volume of the soundtrack. So I'm just going to make a little click on the soundtrack there, and let's click up there. And now we should...
the green screen.
Hopefully you could hear the audio there pretty good. So that's my little arrow, taking it back, just trimming it to there. And I've got a little bit of footage here of us him at the green screen somewhere. There we are. We'll just grab that little input there, output there. I'm going to grab the video of that and probably bring it at the top and then trim that out. We're getting this effect. Trim that in a little bit. You can see Alright, so that's kind of what we're wanting in terms of in my story so far. Normally you would have storyboarded everything, so you kind of have it all in play and you kind of know how it's all going to work. So I'm just going to jump back to the plan of what we were doing today. What I've shown you so far is how to do a basic edit and with some moving images. Haven't shown you how to use a still image yet, but it's much the same, and I'll get to that in a sec. How to change the speed of footage. We haven't done any transitions yet, but I have shown you how to adjust audio. So let's have a quick look at some titling, because one of the things that Premiere Pro does so well is the titling feature. But before we do, Brett, just over to you as to where there are things that are travelling well at this point.
Tim, everything seems to be working okay. Unfortunately, Paul is having some audio issues, but I believe that that's more so at his end. But he's going to persevere nonetheless.
No worries, well, he can watch the recording. Are there any crucial questions that have come through at this point?
Tim, just carry on.
No worries, good. So I'm just going to put in some titles. Notice that these guys say their names here.
Hi, I'm Sam.
So I've got Sam. So I want Sam's name to appear underneath here. I'll probably do it as a lower third text. The way that Premiere Pro does titling is so cool. You go up to the top drop-down menu that says Title and go to where it says New Title, Default Still. Click on that. And then I could name it here. I'll call it lower third. That'll do. And then click OK, and it brings up this brilliant titling window. And it looks a little bit like Photoshop. If you happen to look at some of the tools that are here, and if you're familiar with Photoshop or Illustrator, you should be able to work your way around this particular tool. It's taken a screen grab from where the playhead was in the timeline. So we kind of know what the background of the title is going to be for here. If that's a distraction, you don't like it, you can click this little button at the top here and just get rid of it. But I quite like it. I want to know where I'm going to position my title. I've got a little text box here, but before I add the text, I'm going to put a background into this title. I'm going to go a little rounded corner and just draw in a bit of a shape. Probably have it looking something like that, maybe. I don't want to be too creative with the time that I've got at the moment. And I'm going to change the colour. So we've got a colour control. I'm going to make the colour of that nice and red. Adobe red. In fact, I'm going to grab a little droplet and choose a colour that's already on the screen, just add to the colour scheme that's already there. Now I can grab my text box and I'm going to put some text over the top, and I know his name is Sam. At the moment the text is the same colour, so let's change that to a white.
Tim, Lynn's just come up with a good question that I don't quite know the answer to. Are the titles in Premiere Pro vectors or are they bitmap?
I think they're bitmapped. Let me just see what happens if I increase this. Oh, they're probably vector at this point actually. Let's just see. If we increase the size, let's select it first. That's not going to help anyway, because that's actually increasing the size. But if I did this thing, what was an Emma, wasn't it? Emma. Now I'll just make that a little bit smaller. See what happens. That'll do, just to save time. I'll get to that question in just a sec. What happens now, this is where it gets a bit confusing as to what to do once you've constructed your title. All you simply do is close the window, and then your title becomes a separate asset into whatever folder was already open at the time. It's fallen into my footage folder down here. It's called lower third. I'm going to click and drag that into my stills folder, because it's acting now like a still image. So I could double click it and rework it, but I don't need to. What I want to do is actually want to click and drag it as if it was any sort of asset at all into my timeline. This is where we can test whether it's bitmap. So if I go into here at the start of the...
Hi, I'm Sam. And I'm Emma.
And if I went into it now and started playing with the size of it, I'll get a bit of a taste of how... Yeah, it's hard to tell. I think it might in fact be bitmap. So it might actually be vector at this point. Good question, Lynn. That's something I might go and check out. I'm just going to reposition it wherever I want it to go. I probably should have had it Emma and Sam. But there we go.
Hi, I'm Sam, and I'm Emma.
Now I noticed it just flashed in, and this is where I can show you how to do a transition, because I wanted it to fade in. And the most common transition used in Premiere Pro is the cross dissolve. And all the transitions are over here in the Effects tab. There's a whole folder of transitions here called Video Transitions. If I open up that folder, there's a whole folder of dissolve transitions, of which the cross dissolve is the most common. So I'm going to click and drag the cross dissolve over to the very start of that lower third text. And when I hit the space bar, you should be able to look over here and see it.
Hi, I'm Sam, and I'm Emma.
There we go, fading in nicely, and I'll get it to fade out by grabbing the cross dissolve and dragging it at the end too.
And I'm Emma. I'm away from Eleanor Heights Public School. Today we visited Adobe headquarters in Sydney.
So you see how it's all starting to take shape. I've done our transitions, we've done our basic edits, we've got our audio, we've manipulated the audio. Let's just jump to see what else we were going to be covering. We've done titles, we've done audio, we've done a transition, we've started manipulating the audio, making the volume change. We've got 8 minutes, so let's jump into some chroma keying and cropping, because that's where it gets really, really magical.
Green screen.
I'm going to chroma key from when you start talking, and when we go from the camera shot to suddenly we're going to replace the green that's there with a background image. So to do this, what I need to actually do first is actually bring up both of those clips into an extra layer of video so that I've got a layer underneath. I'm going to take the playhead to the start of that edit, and I'm going to grab the little razor blade tool, and I'm going to make a cut on it. I need to make a cut because I'm going to add a filter, a key filter, one that we call the ultra key, into this section of the footage, and I don't want it to apply to this section of the footage, I only want it to apply here. And the image that I want in the background will be the still image that I've got. So let's just go over to my project and find my stills. There's a still image of them arriving on the bus, so I'm going to click and drag that into my video layer 1. And you can't see it now because I haven't added the filter. But before I add that filter, I actually want to crop out as much green as I possibly can around him so that I don't have too much tweaking to do. So to do the cropping, if I go to my Effects tab, and I'm not quite sure where an effect is or what it's actually called, what I can do is do a little search. I'm going to do a search for crop. So I know I want a cropping tool, and there is a tool called crop. So if I grab that cropping tool and drag it into the footage that I do want to crop, which is this little section here, then I'll have some controls up the top left-hand corner called the Effect controls. When you open up the Effect controls, you get some tools appearing based on whatever filter it is that you've added to your footage. And notice I've got some cropping to the left, top, right and bottom here. If I crop to the left, you can see that it's starting to take shape. If I crop the top, I can crop out a bit of the top, crop to the right, and now I've got rid of all the excess green. Just to be careful that the talent, the person you filmed, hasn't moved too much, because they'll move out of the cropping region if they have moved. So now I need to apply the filter. And as I do apply the filter, just take a note of the Effects control tab and notice all the controls, the added controls will appear when the new filter is added. So I'm now looking for a filter called Ultra Key. And there it is sitting in the keying folder. I'll grab the Ultra Key folder, and this is my favourite of the keying filters. There's quite a few to use. This one just seems to work really well. See all those tools that have appeared? The tool that I'm about to use now is this little droplet tool, and I'm going to choose a sample of the green colour. This is where the magic occurs. As I click it, you will see the green hopefully disappear. 3, 2, 1, zoom. And hopefully that worked for you, and it's looking beautiful for me. It's not perfect, but it's getting pretty good. To make it perfect, what I will want to do is go to the map generation control and just have a bit of a play with some of these settings here. I'm going to play with the pedestal and bring that open a bit. And that's kind of perfected it a little bit. Maybe I can just shadow a little bit. Yeah, almost a perfect key. That's the sort of key that you'd see in broadcast quality television. So let's take it back and let's get the effect. Here's the original. Let's do it now. So as it's moving, I can see there are a couple of little imperfections which I can just play with. But by going through these things, if the perfections aren't fixed through the map generation settings, you can go into the map cleanup settings. There's a whole range of key settings that you can work with until you've got the perfect key, just by fine-tuning these little buttons here and just working through them and just watching the preview as you do it. That gives you an idea of how to do a key. And with only 4 minutes left, so let's just see quickly what else we need to do. We need to know how to export. So what I tend to always do when I'm exporting is I'll take the playhead to the start and I'll click in, on the keyboard. And let's assume this is the finished product. I'll say this is the end of it here. I'll click O for out. The reason I do that is because sometimes in a video project we've forgotten that towards the end here, somewhere in the timeline, we've left a little bit of footage that we didn't know about. And if we don't have an out point when we export, we'll end up exporting all of this black and we'll end up making this huge file, an unnecessarily huge file. So it's always good to do an in point and an out point before you do the export. And once we've got the in point and the out point, we can go up to File and Export Media. With Premiere Pro, there is so many different options for exporting. Generally, this is what I do. I tend to go with the H.264 option. If that worries you, if you're not quite sure why or if you should do that, there's a nice simple way of just going to QuickTime if you're with a Mac, go to AVI if you're Windows. But if you can go to H.264, then go to the preset, and then you can decide what you actually want the output to be. In most cases, you want it to be fairly high res, and I would recommend going for high definition 720p. That's 720 pixels. It's sort of a base level high definition. It's not going to be as large a file as if you go into a 1080. And that's what I tend to do. And it'll look good on a big screen. It'll look good on YouTube. It'll be a manageable file. But if you know that you want a really low res, a really small file, then I'd recommend you actually go to something like an MPEG-4, and then you've got instantly two really low res options, like really, really low res to kind of an average, but that won't look good on a big screen. So I tend to always go to H.264, and then I'll go to HD 720 at 25 frames per second, and then I'll give it a name, output name. I'll call it whatever I want to call it, and save it wherever I want to save it. Normally I'll save it in my project folder, in a new folder called export. And then save, and then export. And you see how quickly it's just running through, and if I jump to, it's nearly there, if I jump to my Finder, give it a couple of seconds, won't take too long. This gives you an idea of how long it does take to export, based on how long your video is, of course, and how fast your computer is. So I'm nearly there. Now I can probably jump to my Finder now. And if I go to my project folder, which is sitting in here, you see the export folder, and there's my video file. If I open that up with QuickTime, we can see.
Hi, I'm Sam, and I'm Emma, and we're from
A finished product. All right, we've run to the end of our time. We did start a little bit late, so we've probably got a minute or two. So, Brett, over to you just to let me know if there's any questions or anything that I haven't covered that you think is crucial.
No questions at this point. The only thing I just added into the chat pod myself was I actually always get my students to export to MPEG-4 because of the system requirements for HD, and often school computers can't really handle the HD export, or it just takes far too long to be done in a manageable period of time. So I actually often recommend for my students to go for the lower quality export for those reasons. It's just a bit of a clue for people who are watching.
Right. Yeah, no, very good point. Thanks very much, Brett. And just as we're finishing up, just want to advertise the webinars that are coming up, the digital storytelling with Adobe. These ones are New South Wales Teacher Accredited, for those of you who are New South Wales teachers. And there's the URL to find out more about them. And they're a series of 3, similar to the Creativity in the Classroom ones that Pip Cleves has been running. and Brett was involved in those as well. These are going to be similar to those, but with a slightly different focus on digital storytelling, so let me encourage you to be involved in those. Thank you very much for being part of it, and we'll stop the recording now. Those of you who are still here, you might want to hang around for a little while to have a bit of a chat. Otherwise, we'll catch up with you another